Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger, and man, I am running a little late, man. So trying to get everything ready to go for you guys. Got to got to get my mic set up. Got to check the sound. It was like the first day of school, and you don't know where you're going, and you're trying to figure out how to get to your classroom. That's kind of how I felt running around, trying to figure out where I'm headed and never really ending up anywhere. And so hopefully we can get this thing going. But let me hit you guys with the intro and then we'll get to some real conversation. All right. So here we are. Got everything loaded up. Camera is on. Uh-oh. I thought the camera was on. Listen, this is turning into a clown show. Let's see. There we go. Hey guys. So listen, man. I'm your guy Boulanger. Sorry for the mishap. Sorry for the snafu getting in this morning. This afternoon. Uh was scheduled to go live at 9, I believe that it was, or 11 or something. And things kept popping up. People kept calling, asking for sessions. And so you guys know how it is. When duty calls, you have to answer, right? So we're in the building this morning, man, and we're talking about, do the Baltimore Ravens have championship DNA? Wait a minute. Let me check my mic one more time. Make sure this green is on. It is. All right. And so, do they? Right? It's super easy to just go ahead and jump out there and say, yeah, man, the Ravens got championship DNA, but do we? And this is not a criticism of the Baltimore Ravens. This is not a call out of the Baltimore Ravens. This is not a question of the roster composition. This is not question of the organization. This is not questioning of the coaches. It's not that. See, because if I question you on your current state, right, I'm asking you to estimate that. But what I'm asking about is, do they have it? Meaning it's already in them, right? Because when you look around the Baltimore Ravens roster, there's not many dudes who have a championship, right? I think Calvin Noy is one. Um, man, does anybody offensively have a chip for the Baltimore Ravens? Um, I don't know. Now that I'm really thinking about it, right? Todd Monken, the OC, does not. Lamar Jackson doesn't. Ronnie Stanley doesn't. I'm thinking about the longer term Baltimore Ravens. Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry, Patrick Ricard, Noteboom. Was he somewhere where he got a chip? I can't remember where he actually played at. Uh, but man, the more and more I'm thinking about it, nobody offensively has any championship DNA. Nobody has no championship credentials. And then when you look defensively, the only guy I can think of as of right now is Calvin Noy. And I understand that the Baltimore Ravens have a somewhat young team. You know, all of the major core pieces are 28 or under, right? Um, Lamar Jackson, and I know that Derrick Henry is a part of the Ravens and will be for at least this season and next season, but I don't think he's, of course, in the long term future. That's what I mean. Somebody who's going to be here uh, 2 to 5 seasons. I think Lamar Jackson will be. I think Isaiah Likely will be. I think Roger Rosengarten will be. Uh, Cal Hamilton will be. Nate Wiggins will be. Beyond that, Mike Green, you know. But beyond that, I can't. Malachi Starks, those guys. But those are newly minted Baltimore Ravens. But I'm thinking those guys who've already been on the roster 3 and 4 seasons, will those guys extend beyond 2 to 5 seasons? And there is some doubt. So when we come to championship DNA, what does that mean? No, it's a term that's been uh, thrown out there and thrown around different organizations and season to season. We understand that the Patriots kind of ruled the 2000s, specifically the 2000 to the 2010s, the early part. We know that the Giants jumped in there and got 2 chips. We know that the Philadelphia Eagles have grabbed 2 chips, one at the close of the New England dynasty, and then one in this new iteration of themselves. We know the Chiefs have gotten 3 chips and been to the championship 5 times. And we know the Rams have gotten a chip and been to the championship 2 times over the last decade. Tampa Bay just got one, but I think their era of championships, at least for the time being, is done, especially, since Tom Brady is no longer pioneering that offense. And so when you look around the league, right, who has championship DNA? Meaning, who has uh, credentials to say they have it. So what is DNA, right? DNA is what identifies you, right? As you know, those of you who have children and you take a DNA test, um, it's going to come back and validate that these children have your DNA in them. It's an identifier, right? And and when it comes to a football team, okay, when it comes to a football team, what things identify a championship level team, right? A team that can go get it done? Well, the major identifier is a team that has already done it and has been successful with, the continual competition, right? The interesting thing about championship DNA teams, you kind of see them show up in those big games repeatedly. Some teams that I referenced was the Patriots. They typically showed up in AFC championships and Super Bowls. The New York Giants showed up in NFC championships and Super Bowls 2 out of 5 seasons. When you look at, um, let's see, who else? Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles, right? 3 within 10 and 2 chips. I mentioned the Rams, the 49ers, right? Um, they formerly had championship DNA, right? They got to the big game, but they could not really bring it home, whether it was against the Ravens way back when or in the 2 or 3 visits they've had over the last 5 or 6 seasons. And so, with understanding, okay, with understanding, a team does not win a championship until they first win it, right? Patrick Mahomes didn't have championship DNA until he first won it. Uh, Jalen Hurts didn't have championship DNA. Him and the Eagles didn't have championship DNA until they what? Won it. Tom Brady didn't have championship DNA until they first won it, so on and so forth. And so I understand with having such a young team, that's why I mentioned those players that are going to be around between 2 and 5 more seasons. Uh, do they have it? Do they have what it takes to be a championship level team? And we will define that in tomorrow's conversation at a much deeper level. But let's do some examination, right? Let's do some examination of the teams that have championship DNA and what they possess that has made them credible, right? Um, Let's go with the Patriots, who closed out their last championship. I believe it was in the 2018-2019 season, if I'm remembering correctly. What did they have, right? It wasn't just because they had Tom Brady at quarterback. Yeah, he was a super important piece of that whole puzzle, right? It wasn't just that Bill Belichick may have been the best architect of a defense, right? He was a big part of that. It may not have been Josh McDaniel being able to call the right plays at the right time, but he was a big part of that. It wasn't just that the offensive line made timely blocks and handled their business in the right moments. It was a big part of that. It wasn't that they just got timely turnovers and things of that nature. That was a big part of that. But it was how, if you look at the Patriots, it was how they came through when in the clutch. It was how they came through in the clutch moments that developed that championship DNA. Uh, when you look at me, you got to consider, right? What was the field goal kicker's name for the Patriots? Adam Vinatieri, right? You guys can recall, if you're old enough, clutch kick after clutch kick in the playoffs. Clutch kicks in the regular season are like practice for what you're going to do in the playoffs. And Adam Vinatieri was one of those kickers who consistently made clutch kicks in big moments. When you think of a guy like a Wes Welker, a cast off on a couple of other teams, specifically the Miami Dolphins, when he got to the Patriots, what did he do? He made clutch catches, right? A guy like a Danny Amendola, what did he do when he got to the Patriots? He made clutch catches. What had to happen in order for those guys to make clutch catches? Tom Brady had to make clutch throws. What had to happen when Tom Brady made clutch throws? The offense had to have what? Clutch blocking, right? So you can kind of see the DNA being woven together, not just in one piece. See, it wasn't just Tom Brady, and it wasn't just Wes Welker, and it wasn't just Amendola, and it wasn't just Rob Gronkowski, and it wasn't just Bill Belichick. It was the whole offense and defense being woven together, and that DNA began to take shape and take form to where uh, what was the narrative around Tom Brady? If you have the ball and you go score and you go up and he's within a touchdown of being able to win that game, you might as well cancel Christmas because the clutchness, that championship DNA that Tom Brady had consistently showed up in those moments. Is that right? Is that not what was said about Tom Brady? Is that you gave him too much time and he was bound to go down and do what? Score and put you away, right? So when you look at the Patriots, it was the clutch moments that kind of stamped and sealed and validated their championship DNA. And that's why Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and the Patriots won six. And then Tom Brady went on and carried that DNA to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he won a seventh. And I think they went to 10 total, or Tom Brady went to 10 total, or 11. Maybe Tom Brady went to 11. Either way, you don't get to that many championships and get that many rings, which is probably why it'll never be matched again unless you have championship level DNA. See, anybody can ball in the regular season. And I'm not discrediting the regular season. But you see a lot of teams ball in the regular season. And then when the moment gets the heaviest, right? They don't come through. That's not me saying that the Baltimore Ravens don't have it. We just don't see it. And I think the number one element, and I'll have my graphic up here tomorrow to kind of pinpoint 7 elements that I've identified or that have been identified as championship DNA. But the first and foremost is mental fortitude. It's a trait. It's a characteristic. See, your DNA will never change. It will never change. Whatever your DNA was at birth will be what your DNA is at death. It's your identifier. It's your marker. And I'm just wondering. See, I know we haven't won yet. I understand that, and I'm not knocking that at all. But I just wonder between the core pieces, whether they're going to be here longer than 2 years or not. Within those core pieces, do they have it in them to produce championship moments? You see, if you remember, and we'll get to some other championship level teams. You remember the Baltimore Ravens 2012 2013 team, right? There was tons and tons of questions about could Joe Flacco really get it done. That's why he was in a contract dispute with the Baltimore Ravens. And so when he went out and won the championship, right? What did they have to do? They had to write him a check, right? And so what did we see on that championship run? We saw 11 touchdowns to no interceptions. If my memory serves me correctly, and you've seen clutch throw, clutch catches, clutch tackles, clutch pass deflections throughout that whole playoff series. But why? Because Ray Lewis was already a part of that team. He already had won a championship. So therefore, the stuff that he was made out of began to weave itself and intertwine itself into the rest of the team. And they were able to pull it together and become champions, even when it wasn't expected for them to be a champion. So you have to have something somewhere. You have to have a major part of the team. It can't just be some secondary or third uh, level player on a team that creates that DNA, right? Because he doesn't have a voice, he doesn't have a real presence, he doesn't have any quote unquote real influence. It's gonna take a major component on that team to produce that DNA. And so the first component is mental toughness. And we talked about mental toughness or mental capacity last week. But let's not stop with the Patriots. Let's talk about the New York Giants. The New York Giants, basically in both of those seasons, were not expected to win championships. I think the first time they won a championship, I think they had went 9-7, I believe. It wasn't even a record worthy of note. But what they did is they pulled together. And I don't even remember if that team had any championship level pieces or players who had championship experience. But they pulled together. The defense handled their business. They make timely sacks. They've got timely takeaways. The offense made timely catches, clutch throw. You guys remember the David Tyree pin to the side of the helmet, and then you never seen David Tyree after that, right? That was the biggest play of his career. But guess what? He made it. You see, it takes a DNA, a championship DNA, to make the unbelievable play. That was an unbelievable play. A catch pin to the side of your helmet. That would have been so easy to knock out, but it wasn't. You see, because once that DNA begins to be established and you get intertwined together and you start believing in one another and you start gelling together and you start getting on quote unquote the mission impossible, you just start believing way above what anybody else believes in you. Neither one of those seasons were the Giants supposed to win a championship or were predicted to win a championship. but they stayed the course. They stuck together. They didn't give up. They fought. They clawed. They spit. They spat. They bled, and they brought home a championship. And in fact, that was enough to have the fortitude, the capacity to get to another championship against the same dude, Tom Brady, the same head coach, Bill Belichick, the same organization, the Patriots, and get another chip. And so, what did the Giants have? They had grit because they wasn't super talented. You guys know what the narrative is around Eli Manning. The question of whether he was going to be a Hall of Famer or not. The question around Eli Manning was, is he going to be a Hall of Famer or not? Right? And whether he is or whether he isn't, I'm not even sure if he was. I know he's been out of the league for 5 years. I'm not sure if he got inducted or not. But the fact of the matter is, he had championship DNA, and whatever was developed in him from his first chip stayed the course for his second chip. That team, both those teams were gritty. Like Michael Strahan was probably the most notable name on that team. You know, everybody knew who Justin Tucker was. Everybody knew who Plexico Barris was because of his days in Pittsburgh. Nobody knew who Derek Tyree is before the catch. I'm trying to think. Brendan Jacobs was a good back, but he wasn't "quote unquote" the best back in the league. But he was big and stout and he had some good speed for a guy his size, and he just handled his business. And they tackled and sacked and ran and bulldozed themselves to a championship. And who was that? Who was that tight? Jeremy Shockey, a gritty dude. Jeremy Shockey was a gritty player. He just handled his business, did what he was supposed to do, and it came up big for the New York Giants. I'm trying to think of other players on that team who just played with some grit, some dirtiness, some nastiness. Who else was on that team? Who played alongside Plexico Barris at wide receiver? Um, man, I can't remember. That's so long ago. But that's what that team had was grit. So the Patriots had mental capacity or mental fortitude uh, um, or mental toughness, right? And the Giants were gritty. I mean, literally, they just grinded out championships, right? Because again, I think the first season they were 9-7, and that second season I don't think they had, like, the second time they won championship. I don't think they had the number one seed. If I'm incorrect, somebody please let me know in the comment section. Um, but neither year were they expected to do anything other than maybe be a playoff team. And in that one season, they weren't even expected to win a playoff spot, right? But they just gritted it out, grinded it out. When you move to another NFC East team, let's go with the Philadelphia Eagles, who again have been to 3 championships in the last decade and have captured 2 championships with 2 different quarterbacks. What do they have as an organization? What do they have? Hmm? Anybody want to guess? Well, what I believe they had was just toughness. Toughness. So we got mental toughness, we got grittiness, and we got just physical toughness. When you consider, right? When you consider how they won the championship against the Patriots and Tom Brady way back when, it wasn't because they were the most talented, right? I can't even remember all the components to that team. I know Carson Wentz had went down, and Nick Foles was the quarterback. I remember Alshon Jeffries was kind of the number one wide receiver. I think uh, Zach Ertz was their starting tight end. I think Dallas Goddard may have already been there. I'm not 100% sure. Who was that running back that played for them back then? Man, I don't even remember who the running back was. They always had a really good, powerful offensive line, and they've always fielded a good defensive front. Back then, it was led by Brandon Graham. I think Timothy Jernigan was on that roster, playing interior. A guy we know well from Baltimore. Um, I think that I'm trying to think who else was a part of that defense. Anyway, that team was just tough. They played with toughness. They were not going to let you out physical them, right? So when Tom Brady was hitting them over the head for 505, they were still coming. They were still fighting, right? Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Maybe what they had was fight, right? See, because when a quarterback hits you up in the Super Bowl for 500 plus yards and several touchdowns, guess what you sometimes have a tendency to do? Quit. No, we can't beat this dude this day. This is Tom Brady, right? I mean, think about it. Tom Brady on the other side of the field, and everybody understands what the narrative is. I mentioned it earlier that if he's on the field with the ball, he has an opportunity. But you guys remember what they did? They kept fighting. And when he got on the field, I think late in that fourth quarter and had an opportunity to go score, what they do? They sacked him and took the ball away from him. Why? Because they fought the entire game. And the reason why I say that team had toughness and or fight is because they did it with a backup QB. He just didn't show up in the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. He played some throughout the playoffs. And I can't remember when he actually took over for Carson Wentz after Carson Wentz had the knee injury, but they believed enough in what their system was and what they were going to try and do, and they went out and fought and won. And then when you flip to, let's go with the Eagles again, the reigning champs. What do they have in this Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, the guy who was expected to take over as the greatest of all time, specifically at quarterback for Tom Brady? What did they do? They just fought. They fought, and then what they did, they came out swinging, right? And they did not let up. They kept swinging. They kept landing haymakers. They kept punching. They kept scratching. They kept fighting. And it ended them up with a chip. See, we look at the game and we talk about the dominance that they had defensively, right? But in truth, what they did was they just out-toughed the Chiefs, right? Some people could just simply say that they punked the Chiefs. I won't go that far because that might come off as disrespectful. But they straight up out-toughed the Chiefs. I mean, when you look at how they dominated them, it wasn't just one player. You know, a lot of people give Josh Sweat the credit for how he played in the Super Bowl. And in fact, besides a Jalen Hurts, it could have been a Josh Sweat that got Super Bowl MVP. They just kept fighting. They just fought and fought and fought. And even into that fourth quarter, the game was out of hand, right? And what they do? They were still tagging Patrick Mahomes behind. And that's no disrespect, but that's exactly what was happening. They were still tagging his behind. Late in the game, when the game was over, they just fought. They just out-toughed the Chiefs. They had something that they came out to do. They set the plan, they had the scheme, they had the players to do so, and they just handled their business. And so you got to give credit to that team. Hold on one sec. Oh, goodness, give me one sec. Got something in my eyeball. Matter of fact, let me turn the chat on while I'm on intermission. Let's turn this chat on right here. Okay. Now, let's get back to it. Oh, let me close this window first, guys. All right, let me close. There we go. Now we're going to get back to it. All right. So this is no criticism to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm just simply saying these are some elements that we have to see if we have. We have to pull back the curtain and see what's behind it. We have to put the Baltimore Ravens on the MRI and see. We have to put them on the CAT scan and really look into them. We have to pull the blood sample and send it into the lab to see if they have championship DNA, because we could see clearly that the New England Patriots had what? The mental toughness. We could see clearly that the Giants in both Super Bowls had what? The grittiness, the grindiness to go out and compete, even when they were not the most talented. We could see the Philadelphia Eagles, 3 Super Bowls in the span of 10 seasons. We can see them have fight, and they went out and won two, out physically, out toughened their opponents. But let's not stop with them. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams, right? They've been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 seasons, I believe, if I'm counting correctly, capturing one chip. And the one chip that they won was against the AFC North foe, the Cincinnati Bengals. But what did they have in both championships? They had the schematics. In order to make it through the NFC with Jared Goff as your QB and a less than stellar offensive line, um, but led by a solid running back in Todd Gurley, so on and so forth, they had the schematics, right? They had been able to navigate the entire season, that I think 2021, no. Whatever the last championship the Patriots won. Now, the problem is they ran up against the mad scientist Bill Belichick, who shut all of that schematics down. But in that second Super Bowl, where they beat the Bengals, they had schematics. They was able to line Jalen Ramsey up on one side of the field and have him cover whoever was over there. They had, I believe, Taylor Rapp was the safety. I may be incorrect, but they had him patrolling the secondary, because you got to remember, they were playing against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who were already good. Joe Burrow had already showed a lot of promise, right? But they were able to put Aaron Donald in position to get those timely pressures. They was able to put Leonard Floyd in position to play off of Aaron Donald. See, it's one thing to have a great player like an Aaron Donald, like a generational player like an Aaron Donald. It's another thing to put the pieces beside him who can be accentuated because of Aaron Donald's talent. And then they was able. This is why I say they had the schematics, because they was able to take a guy in Odell Beckham Jr., who had been a cast off from Cleveland earlier that season. A guy, when he got cut, the Baltimore Ravens were rumored to have wanted, and he chose right. He chose right. He chose to go to the Rams, a team that was in position with the type of coach who could create those schemes that would benefit him and complement his skill set. And he was, for the first half of that game, the best wide receiver on the field, and that included Jamar Chase and also T. Higgins. Not because he was the better player, but because he was in position to be the better player. And he may have been the Super Bowl MVP. A lot of people speculate that up until the time he got injured. But here's where schematics come in. Even though the guy who was leading the team in receiving and doing his thing in that first half, although he got hurt and went out, the game didn't change for them. they still went out and executed their plan and got out of there with a championship. Do the Baltimore Ravens have the schematics? And these are the examples we're taking from other teams who have done it, right? Who have done it at a high level, who have been competitive at a high level. And even when we look at these teams, the Patriots, who are down right now, they just drafted a quarterback last season, and so they're going to be down for a little while longer. But if Drake May becomes what I believe he'll become, Buffalo better watch out. But when you look at the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Rams, and in some aspects, even the 49ers, they have been perennial playoff teams, but not just perennial playoff teams. They have visited the Super Bowl multiple occasions, no less than 2 times for each team. So there must be something, that they have, that they carry, that they possess, that they can tap into, that continues to propel them to higher levels of success. Now, in truth, when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, do we have the best player in the NFL? Yes. I believe Lamar Jackson is the best player in the NFL, bar none. This is not me being a homer. This is not me talking with purple colored glasses on. This is just me saying, when you look at his complete body of work, what he can do on a week to week basis. See, anybody can break loose and take off for 80 yards. Anybody can break loose and make somebody miss and scramble around and throw an off platform touchdown. Anybody can do that. You've seen many players do such things, but we're talking about the consistency with which Lamar Jackson does it. He is the best player in the NFL. But does he have what it takes in the context of what he's made of, the DNA, to get the Baltimore Ravens to where they're trying to get to? That's the question. See, I'm not doubting. See, what I'm saying is not doubt. What I'm saying is real inquisition. It's a real question based on what we have seen and what we have not seen. Does he have it? Does Derrick Henry have it? Right? Does Derrick Henry have what it takes to power the Baltimore Ravens past those things that have held them up, past the barriers of inconsistency, past the barriers of uh, mental capacity? Does he have it? Because up until this point, Lamar Jackson nor Derrick Henry have gotten to multiple AFC championship games, much less a Super Bowl. Do they have it? What about Ronnie Stanley? Does he have it? It's a real question. Does Ronnie Stanley have what it takes to make the key block in the key moment to power this offensive line into a Super Bowl? What about Tyler Linderbaum, a couple of time Pro Bowler? Does he have what it takes to hold it together and put the ball where it needs to be when he's snapping it? Because we've seen a couple of different times where the ball has been off target and it's caused turnovers. Does Tyler Linderbaum have the strength and the off-season training regimen to get stronger, not to get pushed into Lamar Jackson's lap? What about outside? What about Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews? Do they have it? Now, we've seen Isaiah Likely make clutch catches in the playoffs. We have. None bigger than the catch he made against Buffalo to put the Baltimore Ravens within 2 points. But does Mark Andrews have what it takes if he's going to be on this roster? Does he have championship DNA? What about outside? Yeah, we saw Zay make two key bumbles, bad decisions 2 seasons ago in the AFC Championship. Does he have it? What about DeAndre Hopkins? He just played in the Super Bowl and we saw him drop some balls. We saw him seem like him and Patrick Mahomes were off of schedule together, right? Where they could not operate off script. Does he have it? What about on defense, right? Does Meta BK? Does he have it? Does he have what it takes to power through the line and get a timely sack? What about Odafe? Does he have what it takes to bend the edge and be disruptive and get a strip sack fumble to change the course of a game? Does he have it? What about Roquan, who's always run off at the mouth? Does he have what it takes to get a timely pass deflection? Does he have what it takes to come up and make a tackle and knock the ball out? What about Marlon Humphrey? He played clutch football last season, but not in the playoffs. Does he have what it takes to be in the right place, right time and get pass deflections? Does he have what it takes to be in the right place, right time and get key interceptions when it matters most? What about Nate Wiggins, the young cornerback with lots of speed? Does he have what it takes to be in great coverage in key moments? And what about Kyle Hamilton? Is he really the chess piece who can make game-changing plays? See, this is not me really questioning the person. I can't do that. I don't know these dudes. This is me questioning the major components, the super talented team that we have. Do we have, can we tap into championship DNA type stuff to get us over the hump? See, because we've seen multiple examples. See, if it was just one team who had visited the Super Bowl multiple times, right? But we're talking about 4 examples. Over 2 decades, we could see at least 4 teams who've captured 2 championships or more, or been to 2 championships or more, walking away with at least one, who have credibility that they have championship DNA. And even though the Rams haven't been back in a while, they were in the NFC Championship last season. So I wonder, does the Baltimore Ravens have what it takes? Are we made of the right stuff? If they pull our football blood, will it read championship? Will it read contender or pretender? I wonder who has it. Does John Harbaugh have it separate from Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs? And the miraculous playoff run that Joe Flacco went on? It's a real question. We'll talk more on tomorrow, man. I'll catch you guys in the morning, right around 9:30 live. I'm your guy, Boulanger. Thank you guys for tapping in. If you guys have been here this long, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Again, man, all we do here is talk about ball. I appreciate it.